Hello everyone, my name is Infinity and this is Magnetize Yourself, where we talk about life, love, spirituality, and of course, the law of attraction. Today, I want to have a discussion about the number one thing that keeps twin flames apart. And when I say keeps them apart, I, of course, don't mean literally keeps them from connecting, because that would be impossible. Nothing can prevent twin flames from energetically connecting with one another. This bond is eternal and it is unbreakable. So that energetic bond is always there. But what I'm talking about is the physical 3D reunion, what we traditionally think of when we think of twin flame reunion, which is us coming together in some kind of traditional, physical, romantic relationship sense. Whether for you this is spending a lot of time together in person, because maybe you and your twin flame are non-traditional and you don't desire to have a literal relationship with them in the traditional sense, but this could be a kind of romantic closeness in the physical world. This could be being, of course, in a relationship with them. This could be a marriage, starting a family. The reason that reunion looks different from person to person is because we each come in with different soul intentions, which manifest consciously as desires. So whatever you desire that reunion to look like, if you're desiring that from a soul level, from a soul perspective, from a heart space, and not from your ego, then that is your soul's intention for what reunion you destined, you and your twin flame together on a soul level destined to experience in this lifetime. That was a little bit of a tangent, but I just felt the need to explain what I mean by reunion in the first place, since this video is titled The Number One Thing Preventing Reunion. Now, the number one thing, in my opinion, that prevents twin flame reunion is simply ego. This answer might sound far too oversimplified, so I do just want to explain what I mean by that. Now, the reason I say the number one thing preventing reunion is ego is because ego is a word that we use to sum up many of the different ways in which we block our connection to our authentic self, to our soul, to our heart. It really represents or symbolizes the collective experience of blocking, internal energetic blocking. And what I mean by blocking is ego usually begins in childhood. When we are born into this world, we are fully our soul selves. This is why infants will express their emotions freely in any given moment and have absolutely no perception of what anyone else is thinking or how others are reacting to them. They don't care because they haven't fully developed that ego yet, that sense of separation, of identity, that sense of this is me in my physical body and I am separate from them, from others. And through that separation, sensing judgment from others, sensing others reacting to you, and therefore beginning to develop unnatural habits, characteristics, or patterns, negative patterns that are detrimental to us, to our soul self, but that are necessary through the eyes of ego to protect us or to protect how others perceive us, or to alter unnaturally how others perceive us, to try to create some kind of image of ourselves. So of course, this usually begins to develop through childhood, and usually it starts with our parents telling us that certain behaviors are unacceptable. And when I say this, I always want to make it clear that I am not passing judgment on parents, on anyone who is a parent, or on anyone's parents specifically. If you're listening to this video, I'm not saying that your parents did a bad job raising you. That's an oversimplification of really what I'm trying to say here, but you get what I'm saying. I'm not trying to pass judgment on either your parenting or someone else's parenting. All I'm saying is that when we're young, our parents do train us in certain directions. And of course, in many ways, this is very necessary for society, necessary to thrive within this human and in many ways broken society. For example, when our parents teach us to be polite to others, even when we might be angry at them, yes, they are teaching us to control a reaction, to build up a kind of ego self, a kind of maybe not entirely authentic self, but it's for the purpose of being able to more smoothly assimilate into society. So oftentimes our parents do have good intentions with this, not always. Sometimes they may have bad intentions, but for the most part, they have good intentions with this. But nonetheless, over time, this ego gets built up to a very unnatural extent. And by unnatural, I mean it not only helps us to smoothly assimilate into society, but it becomes unchecked. It becomes out of control. When I talk about ego, we often discuss ego death within the twin flame connection, and ego is often discussed in the context of being unnecessary, being unnatural, being as an opposite to our authentic self, to our soul self. But I feel like we need to turn this conversation on its head a little bit, because when I talk about ego death, I like to think of ego death as a precursor to ego rebirth, because our ego does have a place within us and within our lives. Our ego is the human part of us, and we didn't come to this earth to just be soul. We came to have a human experience. So having certain facets of ego is necessary, but ego that also integrates our authentic self, integrates our soul self. This is what we talk about when we discuss integrating your shadow self, integrating those parts of yourself you rejected or judged or deemed unacceptable to the point where you completely eliminated them from your conscious mind and they became absorbed into your subconscious. So they continued to negatively impact you, but they were outside the light of your consciousness, and therefore we refer to them collectively as the shadow self. When we talk about doing shadow work, about integrating these shadow elements, these rejected pieces of yourself, this is all about ego rebirth. This is about killing the ego in a sense, allowing that ego death to happen, because within the twin flame connection specifically, just to kind of circle back to the concept of twin flames, the reason that I'm sharing all of this is because I know many of you listening are twin flames, and twin flames inevitably go through an ego death. There are some people on this planet who can be born into this world, can build up a sense of ego like we all do in childhood, maybe even have a very unchecked ego. An ego that is very much in the driver's seat, very much unintegrated with the soul self. And they can live seemingly content lives if they are unconscious of their true soul nature, if they are unawakened. And I am not passing judgment on people that do this. In fact, this is what some people may have intended for themselves on a soul level, simply to come to earth and have a human, ego-based experience for some purpose. I can't speak to their soul intentions. And in fact, I have a feeling many of you kind of connected with what I said there, and that was you having some kind of soul amnesia, sort of remembering that in past lives, this has been you. Because if you are a twin flame, if you are coming to this twin flame material, I'm going to assume that nearly all of you are on a very different journey from what I just described. Your journey is not unconscious. It is very conscious. You are awakening. You are feeling restless because you are realizing the ways in which your ego has held you back has gone unchecked, and you have a soul longing to live in a more soulful, authentic way, to express your true self, the you at the very core of your being. However, this is probably because most likely you've lived several lifetimes. Twin flames reuniting in the physical world in this lifetime have normally lived many lives together. And I'm just going to say this because it's coming up, and I feel some of you will connect with this, not all of you, but some of you need to know that in past lives, you were very unawakened, you were very unconscious. However, your twin flame was incarnated at the same time, and you were both very unconscious, and you may have met them very briefly, had some kind of a flash of knowing of your connection, very brief. I'm talking like you may have seen them and just kind of instantaneously fell in love with them, but then you never deconstructed your own ego, and they never deconstructed theirs, and you continue to go your separate ways. And you were never able to even imagine the possibility of physically reuniting in the 3D world. In fact, because that wasn't the time for you, that wasn't your soul's intended time to come together, that wasn't even your intention for that lifetime. Your intention for that lifetime was simply to see one another and to experience one another at a distance in the physical as you continue to evolve. But you have evolved past that point. If you are watching this video, nearly all of you have that desire to be in a physical union with your twin flame, and you need to know that the reason you have that desire is because your soul is speaking to you about the possibility of the manifestation of that desire. That's what true, pure desire always is. It is ourselves being able to envision a potential future, a potential life path that we can align ourselves with in order to manifest that desire. So when it comes to the ego and twin flames, usually twin flames meet and it sparks a spiritual awakening. This happens because of what I call energetic merging, which is when twin flames are in each other's physical presence for the first time and their auras are touching, because our aura extends 6 feet out from our body. And so an auric merge or an energetic merge begins to take place. And as this happens, essentially you are downloading immense amounts of information energetically from your twin flame, and they are simultaneously doing the same. This is why then many times people who meet their twin flame have these sudden premonitions or knowings about what their twin flame's personality is like, what kinds of memories they've experienced, what their childhood was like. Sometimes you just find yourself instantly knowing these things or even seeing flashes of them. And this is because you are processing all of this energy from them. However, with this huge influx of energy now coursing through your energy body, coursing through your 7 chakras, your vibration becomes elevated. And as our vibration becomes elevated, there are many ways to describe what happens in this, and it's hard to put into physical words, but I will do my best here. Think of your ego like walls, and think of this energy like a river. And so this river is pushing up against these walls, like pushing up against a dam. And if there wasn't much pressure in the river, if the water pressure was low, you wouldn't feel any kind of pain. The dam wouldn't be at risk of being broken down by the flow, by the current of the water. But when that water pressure is intensely increased, pressure builds up, you feel discomfort, you feel uncomfortable, and then eventually it breaks through the dam. And this is what happens with twin flames and the ego death. This huge exchange of energy between twin flames starts moving through both of their energy bodies and pushing up against these so-called energetic walls, which are constructs of the ego that are unnaturally disconnecting us from who we truly are, from our soul selves. So what does this look like? Because we're kind of talking at a high level here. We're talking abstract, we're talking energy. I want to explain what kinds of signs and symptoms you experience when you're going through this so-called ego breakdown or ego death. So, one manifestation of ego death is simply physical discomfort. Now, this is really strange because most people would associate meeting someone you're very in love with and infatuated with only positive body sensations. But what happens is, as this energetic pressure builds up against these energetic walls, we not only experience that pressure in our energy body, but because we exist at many different layers, and the energy body is very connected to the physical body. So when we feel that energetic pressure, it actually manifests as a kind of physical pressure. So this can result in us seemingly having a weakened immune system. So we may suddenly get sick all the time. Some people have even referred to this as soul sickness when they're in separation from their twin flame. They talk about how they were so tired and would get sick all the time. And they even came up with the term soul sickness because it happened so often to twin flames in separation. But what's actually happening here is a sign of a shift internally, energetically, and actually a positive shift. The breakdown of these walls, the death of this ego. However, the way it manifests doesn't feel positive in the moment because healing often involves periods of time that are very painful. Pain is necessary to this growth, especially this very fast spiritual soul growth we experience within the twin flame connection. So we can also experience this as physical bodily pain or tension. I find that the most commonly reported sign of this ego death and the pain that comes with it is a muscular tension. This seems to be kind of an early manifestation of the energy moving. This is also why when you meditate, you may find that your muscles instantly relax, or when you become angry or upset, or you feel that fiery energy, you may feel it first in your muscles. This just tends to be one of the early manifestations of a shift in energy. We tend to feel it in the muscles. So another thing that can happen, of course, is that you feel very tired. But oddly enough, this tiredness can move in waves. So you may feel very, very tired and then suddenly very energetic, like waves of energy and then energetic drought, so to speak. Now, let's move beyond the physical and talk about the life signs that you're going through an ego death. So during an ego death, an ego breakdown, usually your life will entirely begin to fall apart, or at least that is how you would describe it and how others may even describe it when they look at you and look at your life. And in fact, one of the facets of this ego death is that others' perception of you may become very negative during this time. And this could cause you a lot of emotional turmoil, especially if you are someone who has really sought after other people's approval or thrived on other people's approval. As your ego death occurs, usually things like family, things like career, anything that you considered to be a part of your identity that was not fully aligned with who you are at a soul level, with your true authentic self, will unexplainably fall apart. This is the point in time where you may just lose your job out of nowhere. And yes, it was a job that you hated, a job that was, as you would say, sucking the very soul or the life out of you. But you never would have quit this job on your own accord, but suddenly you just are fired. Or this is when you are with someone in a marriage and the marriage seems content. You're not extremely happy, but you're both somewhat content, or at least that's what you think. From an ego perspective, maybe this person makes sense on paper. This marriage makes sense on paper. Then all of a sudden you find out that this person is cheating on you, or they leave you all of a sudden, and then you're alone. Things like this happen during an ego death because we are coming into alignment with our true soul self. But in order to do that, all of these walls must be broken down. They all must come down. Everything must come crumbling down. And only upon that clear foundation will you then be able to rebuild, reintegrate the ego. So just know that if you're going through these kinds of seemingly unexplainable changes, shifts, things that seem chaotic, crazy, confusing to you, know that there is a divine purpose for all of these things. Know that this is you processing out everything in your life that did not fit with who you truly are on a soul level, and you will rebuild upon this destruction. You will build something so magnificent, so beautiful, so soul aligned for yourself. And if you are in a twin flame connection with your twin flame, I just saw like a kingdom. You will build a kingdom. But first, you must experience this chaos and destruction. I want to also share with you that it's very important, if you are going through this, that you find tools to process out this energy, because there is so much energy moving through all of your 7 chakras, moving through your energy body very quickly, and it's very easy to let it knock you down. It's kind of like surfing. Imagine that these energetic waves moving through you are like waves on the ocean, and you're on your surfboard, and if you aren't coming in with very clear intentions, if you aren't finding some tool, let's call the tool the surfboard. If you don't have a surfboard, you're gonna get kicked under the waves. But if you have a surfboard, you can ride on the waves. You can move much more smoothly through this seemingly chaotic process. You can find order. You can surf across the ocean. So that was kind of a loose metaphor, but in the same way, you need to find some kind of tool to use like that surfboard to be able to ride these energetic waves of intensity that are moving through you. Now, some potential tools you can use are finding some way to better nourish and care for your body, like making some kind of dietary change you feel guided to make, eating higher vibration foods. Another way to kind of process out this energy is simply through moving your body in whatever way feels good for you. So incorporating some kind of new exercise routine, walking. Another grounding tool is, of course, to get out into nature, because nature resonates with a perfect frequency. It essentially kind of retunes our body to its natural state of being. So grounding practices like this are all very important. But above all else, if there is one thing I would really recommend incorporating, it's my 7 chakra clearing subliminal designed specifically for twin flames. Now, the reason I recommend this subliminal, especially if you are going through an ego death, is because ego death is impacting us in all of the 7 chakras, from the root chakra all the way up to the crown chakra, because nearly all of us have energetic walls and blockages and forms of resistance, not just in one chakra, but in many. Because what happens is, if we have a wall, and I'm using this term kind of loosely, calling it a wall, but you know that this is just a metaphoric illustration. But if we have a wall in one chakra, so imagine that we're blocking the root chakra, well, now pressure is building up, and usually we overcompensate in a different chakra. So let's say the sacral chakra. This is why in this example, so the root chakra is like the seat of security, our foundation. Well, if you have blocks in the root chakra, then you might overcompensate for this lack of security, for feeling insecure, for feeling ungrounded. You might overcompensate in the sacral chakra, which is the seat of our sexuality and intimacy. So you might use intimacy with other people as a numbing tool to be able to overcompensate for the fact that you don't feel safe, that you don't feel secure. Now, this is just one very, very small example. I'm just giving you one case study of how every chakra affects the others, which is why I really recommend taking some kind of a comprehensive approach to full energy body clearing within all 7 chakras. So this subliminal I've created works by using tones, frequencies, and also unconscious affirmations. So within this meditation, I have 7 powerful binaural beat frequencies, and each of these frequencies resonates with the natural state of each of your 7 chakras, which is really important in terms of sound therapy, because when we immerse ourselves in a frequency and a tone, our energy body actually begins to tune itself to that tone. So you can see how immersing yourself in the 7 binaural beat frequencies for each of the chakras can then be a form of sound therapy to clear out the blocks in those chakras. And then, of course, in addition to this, I have embedded unconscious messages. There are about 100 of them in this specific subliminal, and these are directed at your subconscious mind, which of course we know the subconscious mind is reflected in the energy. They are very connected. So these affirmations you won't actually be able to hear consciously as you're listening because they are embedded within these other sounds. But that's actually the entire point, because your conscious mind can't hear them. And because your conscious mind can't hear them, it can't reject them, which then allows these messages to pass through deeply into your subconscious, deeply into your energy, really uprooting those negative blockages, those energetic blockages, and replacing them with powerful, positive thoughts and ideas that will essentially magnetize your energy field for deeper connection to your twin flame. So you can try out this subliminal completely free for 7 days when you create a trial account on my website, Sound and Soulful. The link to this subliminal, as well as just some more information about it, will be in the pinned comment and the description box of this video. So guys, thank you so much for joining me here in this podcast. Please do let me know in the comments below, what are your thoughts on ego and on ego death? How have you experienced either a death or a rebirth of your own ego through either the twin flame connection specifically, or simply through your spiritual awakening process? You can also follow me on Instagram at Magnetize Yourself, where I post high vibrational content to keep your vibration up all day long. And if I did resonate with you, please do consider subscribing, joining our community of like-minded, conscious, creative beings here on YouTube. I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll talk to you again in the next podcast.